A man who cannot command his mind will be ruled by it. That is the silent truth the Stoics believed in with unwavering discipline. The mind, your mind, is your strongest weapon and your most dangerous adversary. What you allow it to believe will shape what you become. When you lack command over it, the mind becomes a wild horse, dragging you through anxiety, confusion, and fear. But when it is trained, it becomes your steed of triumph, your chariot of peace. In a world full of distractions, noise, and emotional chaos, the Stoics stood as still mountains. Not because they were born stronger, but because they trained their minds to become immovable, unshakable, and fiercely deliberate. This strength did not come from isolation. It was born from engagement with life's harshest moments: battle, betrayal, illness, failure. Yet through each moment, the Stoic remained composed, not from lack of feeling, but from clarity of perspective. They knew the difference between what they felt and what they chose. The strong mind does not deny emotion, it learns to harness it. It does not hide from pain, it learns to sit with it and transform it. To build a strong mind is not to build walls that isolate, but walls that withstand. It is to construct an inner world that storms cannot tear apart, that chaos cannot confuse, that praise cannot inflate, and that criticism cannot collapse. The strong mind does not seek approval. It seeks alignment with truth. It is to cultivate a spirit that stands firm in suffering, sees through illusion, and acts with unwavering intent even when the crowd moves the other way. This is not philosophy for the ivory tower. This is not mental theater. This is warcraft for the soul. It is practical, gritty, and vital. It means rising earlier than comfort says you should. It means saying no when your habits scream yes. It means choosing silence over gossip, presence over distraction, action over procrastination. To walk the Stoic path is to declare daily war on your lesser impulses. And in this video, we will walk that path they laid. Not in theory, but in life. We will study the tools, the mindset, the questions that build resilience. We will explore how to train our attention, guard our values, and respond to hardship not as victims, but as architects of strength. If you have ever felt your mind racing beyond your control, if you've ever felt stuck in overthinking, overwhelmed by failure, or crushed by uncertainty, this is your path back. Back to center, back to command, back to a mind governed by wisdom, not fear. Let us begin this journey together, not to escape difficulty, but to rise above it. Not to become indifferent, but to become unbreakable. Let us begin. Chapter 1. Discipline is the foundation. The Stoics placed discipline at the heart of all virtue. Epictetus taught that we must first control our desires and aversions, then our speech, and finally our actions. Discipline is not about punishment, but precision. It is the commitment to align your behavior with reason, not impulse. Imagine waking up and refusing to let your emotions determine the quality of your day. You feel tired, but you rise. You feel irritation, but you speak with calm. You feel temptation, but you act with restraint. You feel like procrastinating, but you begin anyway. You feel overwhelmed, but you take the next small step. That is the muscle of discipline in motion, quiet, consistent, and commanding. Discipline is not loud. It doesn't brag. It shows itself in the smallest decisions: what you read, what you eat, when you sleep, how you speak. These seemingly trivial acts, when repeated with care, become the architecture of an unshakable mind. When you begin to choose what is right over what is easy, you strengthen the part of you that is sovereign. Seneca reminded us that it is not that life is short, but that we waste much of it. The hours we spend worrying about things we can't control, the moments we lose chasing approval or entertainment, these are fragments of life we never reclaim. Discipline begins with reclaiming your time. Set boundaries around your attention. Eliminate what weakens your spirit. Say no often and clearly. Cut out what dulls your vision or drains your fire. A disciplined mind does not chase every distraction. It chooses what is worth doing and does it fully, with intention and presence. Practice daily rituals that reinforce command over your day. Wake early, not because it's trendy, but because it teaches you to move before comfort permits it. In that simple act of rising with purpose, you declare sovereignty over sleep, over lethargy, over habit. Keep a journal, as Marcus Aurelius did, to examine your thoughts. It is not the act of writing that matters, it is the clarity it brings. When you're faced with hardship, don't complain. Observe, learn, respond with power, not panic. The disciplined mind does not fear challenge, it uses it. You can build rituals around exercise, meditation, fasting, or service. What matters is not the ritual itself, but that it teaches you to endure temporary discomfort for long-term integrity. Whether it's cold showers or early wake-ups, clean eating or digital fasting, these are not acts of self-denial. They are acts of self-mastery. They remind you that pleasure is not your master and that growth often lies just beyond the boundary of comfort. Each time you keep a commitment, even when it is inconvenient, you declare yourself as someone who commands your habits instead of being commanded by them. When you do what's hard because it's right, you become someone who can face storms without collapsing. You form a deeper trust in yourself. That trust is like a quiet reservoir of strength. You know you will show up even when it hurts. You know you can be counted on. You stop fearing challenges, not because they are less difficult, but because you are more prepared. In our age, where comfort is God and convenience is king, discipline is rebellion. The world urges you to take the easy route, to scroll instead of study, to consume instead of create, to escape rather than engage. Every advertisement whispers that life should be effortless, that struggle is outdated. But the Stoic knows otherwise. They know that to live with intention, to live with truth, is to often walk the harder path. Choosing the road that demands your presence, your discomfort, and your full attention is not just an act of defiance, it is a return to what is real. It is how you carve a soul capable of enduring the chaos around you, not by avoiding it, but by entering it with grace and grit. It is how you build a character that cannot be shaken by circumstances, a person who can adapt, who can rise after being knocked down, who can maintain clarity in confusion and composure in catastrophe. When everything around you is moving, when the ground beneath others crumbles, the disciplined soul remains grounded, not because life is easier, but because the foundation is stronger. This is not a matter of pretending life is easy. It is becoming someone for whom difficulty does not equal defeat. It's about becoming anti-fragile, someone who grows stronger with every hit, who turns adversity into advantage, who transforms every hardship into a proving ground. It is how you walk through fire without turning to ash. You learn not to avoid heat, but to withstand it, to use the flame to forge, not to burn, to step into discomfort with a steady heart, knowing that growth waits on the other side. Discipline doesn't eliminate pain. It equips you to stand inside it and remain whole. It prepares your mind to see suffering as a sacred teacher, not a cruel punishment. When you embrace this mindset, the pain may still arrive, but it no longer defines you. It becomes the crucible from which your clarity and strength are born. And from that soul, from that steadiness, strength begins to grow, not just muscle or willpower, but a spirit that radiates stillness in a world gone frantic. Others will notice it. They may not understand it, but they will feel it. The quiet confidence, the calm under pressure, the resolve that does not need applause, the focus that doesn't need validation. This is the mark of a strong mind, one that has chosen structure over chaos, virtue over ease, and purpose over comfort. It is the light others look toward when they are lost, the presence others seek when the storm rolls in. That is the legacy of discipline. That is the birthright of a strong mind. Chapter 2. Control what you can, let go of what you can't. At the core of Stoic teaching lies a boundary line, the line between what is within our control and what is not. This single distinction can free the mind or enslave it. It is the hinge upon which all Stoic wisdom turns. To misunderstand this line is to live in perpetual frustration. To respect it is to open the door to peace. The Stoics saw this as the most powerful filter through which to view reality, the bedrock of inner freedom. Without it, you are at the mercy of the winds. With it, you stand like an anchored ship amidst crashing waves. You do not control your reputation. You do not control how others treat you. You do not control the economy, the weather, or the traffic. These are external. They move according to their own rhythms, indifferent to your preferences. But you do control your thoughts, your effort, your principles. You control how you show up in the face of difficulty. You govern your character, what you tolerate, what you pursue, what you refuse to compromise. The strong mind anchors itself to this clarity and moves with precision through the fog of life. It's tempting to place your happiness in the hands of the uncontrollable, to believe that peace will come once others change, or the world becomes fair, or everything goes as planned. But the Stoic refuses this illusion. When you focus on what is not yours to command, you become anxious. You fight against reality like a swimmer caught in a riptide. But when you return your energy to what is within, peace follows. This is not passive resignation, it is active mastery. It is an act of liberation from false ownership. Marcus Aurelius did not ignore the cruelty, betrayal, and chaos of his political world. He faced the decaying empire, the plots and pressures, the unbearable weight of leadership. But he focused on how he could govern justly, speak honestly, and lead by example. He understood his role was not to dictate events, but to respond to them with virtue. That was his power, and it was enough. Detach from outcome, attach to action, detach from praise, attach to excellence. The applause of others comes and goes, but your integrity remains. The world will do what it does, erratic, emotional, unpredictable. Your task is to act in alignment with your highest values, regardless. That is where power lives, not in controlling the tide, but in learning how to navigate it. This clarity gives you power, not the power to bend events, but the power to never be bent by them. To walk into the storm without losing yourself, to face chaos with composure, to meet insult with dignity. Each day remind yourself, what part of this belongs to me? That is the compass that points to your strength. And when you follow it, you no longer feel helpless in the face of fate. You become a force in the face of it. Chapter 3. The obstacle is the way. The Stoics saw obstacles not as interruptions, but as the path itself. What stands in the way becomes the way, Marcus Aurelius wrote. A weak mind resents difficulty. A strong mind embraces it as fuel for growth. You will be tested. You will fail. You will be rejected. You will be misunderstood, overlooked, underestimated, and even betrayed. These are not signs you are cursed. They are signs you are living. They are reminders that you are participating fully in the human experience. The Stoics did not seek hardship, but they trained for it, not because they were pessimistic, but because they understood that pain is not optional in life. Only our reaction to it is. They knew that every trial reveals who you truly are when the mask of comfort is stripped away and only your essence remains. When something blocks your progress, pause. Do not immediately resist it or curse it. Ask yourself, what can this teach me? Where can I grow from this? How can I use this to strengthen my will, sharpen my clarity, deepen my character? Pain becomes purpose when seen through the eyes of a Stoic. The block becomes a builder. The struggle becomes the sculptor of your soul. The frustration becomes the furnace in which resilience is forged. These are the questions that change the story. Not, why is this happening to me? But what am I being called to become through this? This mindset doesn't make suffering pleasant. It makes it useful. It transforms agony into instruction. Your heartbreak, your loss, your failures. These are weights you can lift or burdens you can drag. The choice is yours. You can be forged or fractured. The obstacle is not your enemy. Your mindset about the obstacle is. It is the lens you use that turns misfortune into mastery or misery. Choose to look clearly, and you choose strength. Train yourself to see resistance as an invitation to evolve. Resilience is built through practice. Just as a muscle grows from resistance, so too does your inner strength grow from confronting discomfort with courage. It doesn't happen in theory or from wishful thinking. It happens when life challenges you, and you choose to respond with character instead of collapse. Strength of mind must be exercised, tested and refined through deliberate friction with adversity. When you lift heavy weights, your body adapts to the tension. The same is true for your soul. It grows when burdened. It strengthens when pressed. Do not just read philosophy, live it. Let the words become action. Let the ideas become habits. Every moment of inconvenience is an invitation to discipline. When the small inconveniences come, treat them as tests. The delayed email, the long line, the inconsiderate remark, the forgotten favor, the slow internet, the miscommunication. All of them are opportunities to practice patience, humility, and control. They are your training ground. They are the warm-ups for the moments that truly demand your strength. And when the larger tragedies arrive, the loss, the betrayal, the illness, the failure, remember, you were born for this. That is not a slogan. It is a truth. It means your nature was designed not just to survive hardship, but to thrive through it. Your soul is wired for resilience. Your body, your breath, your mind. They are not fragile instruments. They are tools for battle. You were shaped for resistance, not for retreat. Your design includes the capacity to carry suffering and still move forward with dignity. It means you were made not for ease, but for endurance, not for escape, but for engagement. It means your core is built for fire, because only fire can forge steel. You were not made to be soft. You were made to rise, again and again. You were crafted with a mind capable of navigating darkness and still choosing light, again and again, with deliberate force. You were designed to endure the storm and emerge wiser, calmer, sharper, not in spite of the storm, but because of it. This is not only a possibility, it is your obligation. This is your duty, to show yourself what you are capable of, to demonstrate the depth of your endurance and the strength of your soul. To be the proof that inner strength does not bend under pressure, but hardens and refines. To stand in your pain without losing your purpose. To remain whole when life tries to shatter you. To carry grief in one hand and responsibility in the other, and to walk forward with both. Every stone in your path is a stone in your fortress. Stack them, step on them, build from them, construct with them, frame them into your foundation, cement them into your identity. Let every rough edge refine your sharpness. Let each barrier become a platform. The setbacks, the rejections, the failures, they are not blocks to your progress. They are bricks in your foundation. They are the raw material of greatness. They are not there to destroy you, but to develop you. Use them, accept them, place them deliberately. Embrace them with intention, not with resentment. Stand before them not as a victim, but as a builder. That is how the strong mind is built. not in the absence of adversity, but in full partnership with it. It is built in the noise, in the weight, in the fire. The strong mind sees difficulty as an architect, not an assassin. It recognizes that pain is a sculptor working patiently to chisel away weakness. It is sculpted by challenge, shaped by struggle, and finished by resilience. These challenges are the forge, the sharpening stone, the proving ground. Each trial serves a purpose. Each test gives shape. It grows because of what it endures, because of what it learns to hold without breaking, because it welcomes friction, because it trusts that strain is not a signal to stop, but to grow. And when it does break, and it will, it learns how to repair. Not with glue, but with gold, like kintsugi pottery made more beautiful through its cracks. It learns how to build back stronger, wiser, and more steady. It doesn't forget the break. It wears it proudly. It learns how to integrate the pain without becoming the pain, how to process without paralysis, how to walk scarred yet stable. Each scar becomes a symbol of resilience, a line of a story not of defeat, but of triumph. Each lesson a weapon of wisdom, forged in silence, in solitude, in sincerity. Each challenge a chance to forge more of who you are meant to be, a mirror reflecting back the gap between where you are and who you could become. This is the path of mastery, not perfection, but the continual shaping of your inner world into something that cannot be shaken, no matter what comes next. It is the daily rehearsal of courage, small moments where you show up, even when it's hard. It is the relentless pursuit of strength with grace, of power without arrogance, of presence without pride. It is the battle cry of a soul that refuses to surrender, a quiet defiance that whispers, "I will not be broken." Chapter 4. Master your emotions or be ruled by them. To the Stoics, emotions were not enemies, but neither were they kings. They were signals, not commands. The strong mind learns to hear them without obeying them blindly. Anger flares, fear rises, envy creeps in. All are natural. But the Stoic pauses before acting. You cannot eliminate emotion, nor should you, but you can train your response. The Stoics practiced this through reflection, journaling, and premeditatio malorum, imagining hardship in advance to reduce its shock. This is emotional training, preparing your mind to remain still when the world trembles. Speak not in rage, act not in panic, decide not in despair. The strong mind waits, reflects, and then responds. It does not indulge fantasy, nor drown in drama. It returns to reason like a sailor to a compass. In everyday life, this means holding your tongue when insulted, even when your pride screams for retaliation. It means breathing before reacting to bad news, and allowing space between stimulus and response so that reason can take its rightful place. It means choosing not to spiral when things go wrong, resisting the urge to catastrophize, and instead grounding yourself in what is real, what is controllable, what still matters. It means noticing the first wave of anger rise and letting it pass, not out of weakness, but out of mastery. It means pausing before responding to that rude comment, reflecting before answering that stressful email, and choosing silence over argument when peace is more powerful than being right. It means listening carefully to what upsets you and tracing that feeling to its source rather than reacting blindly to its surface. It's knowing that not every attack deserves a defense and not every emotion demands expression. It is not about emotional denial, but emotional discipline. Emotional mastery is not suppression, it is sovereignty. It is having the ability to feel the storm inside you and still steer your ship with calm hands. It is the daily act of owning your energy rather than being owned by it. It is choosing clarity when confusion tempts you, calm when chaos surrounds you, and grace when ego would rather strike. When you master your emotions, People lose their power to manipulate you. They cannot provoke what you have trained to remain still. Their actions become background noise to your clarity. You begin to see their reactions as data, not directives. You no longer absorb their moods or adopt their urgency. You observe without attachment, understanding that their emotional outbursts are often reflections of their inner battles, not your shortcomings. Events lose their power to disturb you. They may shake your circumstances, but they cannot shake your core. You become the anchor in the storm, the lighthouse others look to when they've lost their way. You are no longer tossed by the waves of every opinion or setback. Your reactions are no longer dictated by external drama, but by internal direction. And your mind becomes a place of peace, not a battlefield of reactivity, a steady home where wisdom rules, where intention guides action, and where noise is filtered by truth. You create mental distance between what happens and how you respond. In that space, you access your higher self, the version of you that chooses virtue over vengeance, patience over pride, and action over impulse. You live not in the chaos of what happens, but in the freedom of how you choose to respond. And in that space, between the world's pressure and your response, lives your power. It is the throne upon which your character sits, quietly ruling a kingdom that no one else can invade. Chapter 5. The Practice of Perspective. The Stoics trained themselves to see clearly, not through rose-colored glasses, but through the lens of truth. Perspective is the ability to zoom out, to see events not as personal catastrophes, but as small parts of a greater whole. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that he was just a speck on a rock spinning in space, not to belittle himself, but to humble his problems. The strong mind knows how to return to this vast view when life feels overwhelming. Zooming out changes everything. What once felt unbearable becomes survivable. What once felt urgent becomes trivial. The anxiety of the moment, when held under a wider lens, begins to dissolve. You realize how much of what distresses you now won't even cross your mind in a few days. This is not apathy, it is wisdom. It is remembering that time passes, emotions fade, and life moves on. It is choosing to respond with measured calm instead of frantic immediacy. It's recognizing the difference between what is momentary and what is meaningful. The practice of zooming out gives you breathing space in the middle of tension, and often that space is all you need to reclaim control. Ask yourself, will this matter in a week, a month, a year, 5 years? Will you even remember it? This simple habit of questioning shrinks problems to their proper size. It creates emotional distance and gives your rational mind a seat at the table. The strong mind lives in reality, not in exaggerated stories. It doesn't inflate a mistake into a crisis, nor stretch a delay into a disaster. Perspective trims the edges of panic and reveals what truly deserves your energy. It turns mountains back into molehills and helps you carry burdens with proportion. When someone insults you, ask, is this a reflection of me or of them? Am I responding to truth or projection? When something fails, ask, is this the end or just a chapter? What doors might this close and which might it open? When you fall short, ask, is this failure final or a lesson? What strength is this trying to grow in me? These questions pull you out of blind reaction and into reflective understanding. They reframe pain as potential and setbacks as steps. They bring you back to your center. Perspective doesn't remove difficulty, but it makes difficulty bearable. It reframes adversity in such a way that it no longer dominates your thoughts. It puts a pause on panic, offering a moment of reflection when the world wants you to react. It helps you endure by reminding you that this moment is not the whole story. It is a single sentence in a long chapter, not the final word. That shift changes how we move through pain. We no longer resist every discomfort, but begin to ask what role it plays in the greater arc of our life. Perspective turns today's chaos into tomorrow's wisdom. It's the space between instinct and insight, the mental breath we take before drawing conclusions. It is how the Stoics stood calm in storms, ruled empires without pride, and faced death without fear. They held power not because they clung to it, but because they knew its temporary nature. They did not chase status because they knew all positions would dissolve. Their courage came not from ignorance of danger, but from clarity about what truly matters. They practiced detachment not out of coldness, but out of wisdom. They could love fully and lose gracefully because their hearts were anchored in what does not change: character, virtue, principle. This is the root of resilience, to remain rooted when the world is swept away. Your mind becomes strong when it stops being a victim of the moment and starts seeing the full picture. When it learns to resist the gravity of immediate emotion and rise above temporary illusions. It begins to understand that truth lives not in the moment of pain, but in the broader arc of purpose. It no longer reacts based on fear, but acts based on values. It chooses steadiness over panic, direction over disorientation. It recognizes that the situation may be unfair or uncomfortable, but it does not need to become unbearable. That is a decision made by perception, not reality. It doesn't interpret setbacks as curses, but as chapters that refine rather than ruin. It doesn't define self-worth by external events, but by internal consistency. What you show up for, how you endure, and what you stand firm in when things fall apart. The strong mind trusts the process over the praise, the effort over the outcome, the journey over the judgment. It sees in hardship a call to rise, not a signal to collapse. It can stand in failure without shrinking and still meet its own eyes in the mirror. When your mind learns to stretch beyond the immediacy of discomfort, beyond the sting of today's insult, beyond the noise of temporary failure, and holds firm to the greater view, then and only then does true clarity emerge. It sees that what appears to be chaos is often a hidden order, that every ending contains a seed, that today's pain may be tomorrow's path. That clarity is not soft, it's not passive. It is a forged weapon of perception, a sharpened lens through which you cut through the confusion and regain control of your inner world. It is the quiet dominion of a mind that no longer needs to be rescued, because it has learned to lead itself. Chapter 6. Make stillness your strength. In a world addicted to speed and stimulation, stillness is seen as weakness. But to the Stoics, stillness was strength in its purest form. It is not the absence of motion, it is the presence of mastery. The strong mind is not the mind that races from one thought to another, but the one that knows how to pause, observe, and decide. Stillness is the space where wisdom emerges. When you are constantly reacting, you cannot reflect. When you are chasing, you are not choosing. Stillness gives you that rare and vital power, the ability to respond instead of react. The mind that can be still can resist temptation. It can resist anger. It can resist the compulsion to act just to feel in control. Seneca wrote, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." If you scatter your attention across every noise, notification, and opinion, you lose command. Stillness trains you to return your attention to the present moment, not as an escape, but as a foundation. The present moment is where reality lives, where clarity grows, where your next decision is made. Stillness is not passive, it is strategic. It is the stillness of the general who surveys the battlefield before he moves. It is the stillness of the mind before the storm. You must create space in your day for silence, reflection, and intentional thought. Morning journaling, nature walks, or even just 5 minutes of conscious breathing. These are not luxuries, They are necessities. They are how you hear yourself amidst the noise. A still mind can sit with discomfort without trying to escape it. It can observe fear without being ruled by it. It can wait, listen, and respond with clarity. And when others are frantic, the still mind stands firm. It does not follow every impulse or fear every unknown. It remains grounded. The strong mind does not panic in uncertainty. It does not rush to fill silence with noise or confusion with distraction. It becomes stronger because it has learned how to pause without losing momentum, how to wait without surrendering resolve. Stillness is the soil in which strength is rooted. Train your mind to find stillness in moments of noise. Practice presence until it becomes your posture. When others move without thinking, you will think before moving. When others fear the pause, you will find your power in it. Stillness is not inaction. It is deliberate, disciplined inner control. And from it, the strong mind draws its most quiet, most unshakable strength. Chapter 7. Strength through simplicity. The Stoics were not interested in extravagance. They understood that a cluttered life breeds a cluttered mind. The pursuit of more possessions, more attention, more status, often leads to less peace. Simplicity was not just a lifestyle for them. It was a strategy for building mental strength. When you strip away the excess, you reveal what truly matters. The strong mind does not depend on luxury to feel content. It finds richness in virtue, not in possessions. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." This is a reminder that hunger for more often signals a poverty of soul, not of circumstance. Simplicity brings focus. When your life is full of noise, your mind cannot concentrate. When your schedule is packed with obligations that do not serve your purpose, you lose your center. The Stoics taught us to live according to nature, and nature is not chaotic. It is ordered, rhythmic, essential. The strong mind mirrors that simplicity, clear in intention, sharp in decision, light in burden. This doesn't mean you must live with nothing. It means you live with what is necessary. Ask yourself often, what do I truly need? What brings peace and what brings weight? Strip your surroundings of distractions. Declutter not just your space, but your commitments, your habits, your mental loops. Make room for stillness, for insight, for truth. Even speech should be simple. The Stoics valued plain language over persuasive flattery. They knew that clarity is strength. Speak only what is essential. Avoid gossip, avoid excess, avoid the urge to be impressive. Let your words carry meaning, not noise. The practice of simplicity sharpens your focus on the eternal. You stop chasing what fades and begin rooting yourself in what endures: virtue, reason, character. When others race for more, the strong mind returns to less, and in that less, it finds more than enough. Simplicity is not deprivation, it is liberation. It frees your energy for what matters. It brings peace not because you have nothing, but because nothing has you. This is how the strong mind breathes, not under weight, but in freedom. Chapter 8. Own your inner narrative. At the center of every strong mind lies a story, a narrative you tell yourself about who you are, what you can do, and what life means. The Stoics understood that the mind is not just a passive observer of life, but an active narrator. What you believe about your experience becomes your experience, and if you do not take authorship of that narrative, someone else will. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." But deeper still, it's how you interpret what happens that shapes your response. Is this a curse or a challenge? Is this loss or liberation? Is this the end or a new beginning? These are not objective answers, they are chosen perspectives. And your perspective becomes the lens through which strength or suffering is born. The weak mind adopts the story handed to it by fear, doubt, and the crowd. The strong mind writes its own story in the ink of courage and clarity. It says, "This may be difficult, but I am not defeated." It reframes rejection as redirection. It turns obstacles into origins. It looks for meaning where others see only misfortune. This is not fantasy. It is disciplined perception. It is the choice to see with purpose rather than panic. You must guard your inner narrative. Monitor your self-talk like a watchman guarding a sacred gate. What you repeat, you begin to believe. And what you believe, you begin to embody, word by word, thought by thought, habit by habit. The strongest prisons are not built of stone, but of sentences we've told ourselves for years. Sentences that began in childhood, were shaped by fear, and now echo in moments of uncertainty. Do you speak to yourself with patience or poison? Do you uplift yourself or undermine yourself? Are you your own mentor or your own critic? Marcus Aurelius journaled each morning to reinforce the kind of man he wished to be. He knew that if you don't write your own script, the world will write one for you, full of doubt, distortion, and dependency. You must do the same. Reflect, rewrite, realign. Take time each day to check in with your thinking, to notice where your mind goes by default, and then correct its course with purpose. Turn your inner world into a fortress, not a fog. Even when emotions are raw, especially when emotions are raw, you can step back and ask, what story am I telling myself right now? Is it true? Is it useful? Is it aligned with the person I am becoming? Can this thought pass the test of reason, or is it just an old wound speaking? Is this belief a guide, or is it a ghost from a past that no longer defines me? Pain will try to narrate your life in the language of fear. Doubt will try to write a tragedy before the plot has even unfolded. Insecurity will dress itself as truth and whisper lies that feel familiar. But the Stoics did not allow falsehoods to run wild in their minds. They intercepted lies with reason and replaced anxiety with action. They trained themselves to separate emotion from fact, reaction from intention. They did not confuse feelings with facts. They challenged every thought with discipline. Does this help me grow? Does this bring me peace? Does this reflect my character? They knew that inner dialogue shapes outer behavior, and if left unchecked, the mind can become a saboteur rather than a sanctuary. The quality of your mind determines the quality of your life, and that quality is built in the quiet moments when you choose your thoughts deliberately. Rewriting your narrative takes practice. It takes daily effort to reshape thought patterns carved by years of repetition, years of assuming pain meant punishment and silence meant failure. These thought grooves run deep, often laid down by family, culture, or past experiences. But each day you pause and question your inner voice. Each time you choose clarity over chaos, you create a small shift. And those small shifts, done consistently, reshape the architecture of your mind. You begin to replace panic with presence, self-doubt with self-direction. You learn to meet discomfort with perspective and see challenge as a call to rise rather than a reason to retreat. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What now? What strength is this moment offering me? What is this teaching me about my resilience, my patience, my purpose?" Every time you define the meaning instead of letting it define you, you reclaim sovereignty. You stop reacting and start responding. You become not a subject of your story, but its author, bold, awake, deliberate, and unafraid to revise. A strong mind is not defined by perfection. It is defined by authorship. It is not the absence of error, but the presence of responsibility. It's not about being flawless, but about being aware and intentional, aware of your thoughts, your patterns, your emotional habits, and intentional in how you shift them toward your highest values. It's about noticing the drift and steering yourself back to center, again and again, not once, but daily. It's understanding that strength is not always loud or forceful. It is quiet consistency, the kind that holds your course when the winds of circumstance try to push you off track. You choose what each moment means, not because you control the external world, but because you control the interpretation. You choose what story you live in. The strong mind edits, questions, and reauthors its inner dialogue with the same care that an artist revises a masterpiece. You rewrite the script until it aligns with truth, not fear. You revise, you adapt. You confront outdated beliefs and replace them with clarity. You discard the roles others have cast you in, and you step fully into the character you are becoming. You take the pen back when life tries to rip it from your hands, not with rage, but with calm resolve. You declare, "This is not the end. This is the beginning of a stronger chapter." And not just once, but every day you face challenge, disappointment, or loss. Every time you're knocked down by uncertainty, you make that declaration again. You remind yourself that authorship is power, and you wield it with grace. Not the grace of ease, but the grace of resilience. You train your inner voice to become an ally, not an adversary. You choose words that build instead of break. And in doing so, you begin to trust yourself deeply, knowing that no matter what happens around you, the narrative within remains yours to shape. And if you choose wisely, if you choose deliberately, the world around you may remain wild, but the world within you will remain your own. Steady, sovereign, and fully in your grasp. Not because life became easier, but because your mind became unshakable. Because you became the one who decides what every storm means, and what every sunrise begins. Because you chose to author your life not from fear or reaction, but from wisdom, strength, and self-command. Chapter 9. Resilience over approval. One of the great threats to a strong mind is the craving for approval. The Stoics warned us, if you place your worth in the hands of others, you will never be free. A mind that depends on praise for stability is a mind constantly at the mercy of other people's moods, opinions, and ignorance. The strong mind, by contrast, learns to find resilience in values, not validation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Sanity means tying it to your own actions." The Stoic knows that approval is fickle. It can be won one day and lost the next, often for reasons outside your control. But your principles, your honesty, your discipline, your courage, these are yours alone. They are your constant. A resilient mind is not built by applause. It is built in silence, when no one sees your effort, when your progress is unrecognized, when you continue anyway. It is forged in the fire of rejection, in the discomfort of being misunderstood, in the restraint of not defending yourself when lies are told. The Stoics didn't chase admiration, they chased alignment. They chose the difficult right over the easy popular. You cannot serve two masters, your truth and their approval. You must choose. When you seek only to please others, you betray yourself. When you act only from principle, you build a self that others may not always understand, but one you can live with in peace. This doesn't mean you ignore feedback or isolate yourself. It means you filter every opinion through your reason. Is this critique helping me grow? Is this compliment inflating my ego or reinforcing my values? The strong mind listens, but does not kneel. It considers, but does not surrender. Resilience over approval, principle over popularity, long-term peace over short-term praise. That is the Stoic path. And it is the way to a mind that cannot be manipulated, because it is rooted too deeply in what it knows to be right. Chapter 10. Strength is a daily choice. The strong mind is not a trophy. It is a tool. It is not the reward of a single breakthrough, but the result of daily effort. To the Stoics, strength was not measured by how much you could lift or how long you could endure pain, but by how consistently you chose virtue over vice, clarity over confusion, and intention over impulse. You will not feel strong every day. You will falter. You will have days when your mind feels weak, unfocused, even defeated. There will be mornings when doubt whispers louder than resolve, when fatigue shadows every thought, when your inner voice hesitates instead of commands. But strength is not the absence of those days. It is how you respond to them. Do you meet them with self-pity or with quiet resolve? When you fall short, do you abandon yourself or return to your principles? When your discipline wavers, do you quit or begin again? These are the questions that build strength. Each time you return to what matters, even after a failure, you carve deeper grooves of resilience. Each return to your values is a return to yourself. The Stoics never promised an easy life. They did not offer comfort. What they offered instead was a way to live powerfully within a difficult life, a way to meet the unpredictable with steadiness, the painful with poise, the uncertain with purpose. They gave us tools, reflection, restraint, presence, reason, courage. These are your daily practices, your mental weights. These are the disciplines that will steady you when nothing else can. They are how you grow stronger, not just in thought, but in action. Strength is not a matter of intellect. It is a matter of repetition, of choosing what is right again and again until it becomes your nature. You build your strong mind through what you do when no one is watching, through how you speak when it would be easier to stay silent, through how you carry yourself when circumstances tempt you to collapse, through the temptations you resist and the truths you tell. Every habit, every choice, every response is a brick, and over time, those bricks form the fortress you carry with you into every storm. That fortress is not built overnight. It is built moment by moment, in solitude, in struggle, in silence. It is what you construct when you refuse to let the world dictate who you are becoming. There is no finish line, no perfect version of strength, no moment where you say, "I've made it," and stop. Strength is a moving horizon. It expands as you pursue it. There is no medal for endurance, no applause for quiet persistence. No one sees the battles you fight in silence, the doubts you overcome before dawn, the resistance you break through with your breath. But there is the opportunity today and every day to practice, to return to your values, to recommit to your clarity, to rise even when your legs are heavy. And in that process, not in the outcomes or applause, you will find the unshakable strength the Stoics spoke of. Not in grand gestures, but in subtle habits. Not in outward shows, but in inward stillness. You will see that strength is not found, it is made. Made in the friction between your excuses and your standards. Made in the small, honest moments where you choose not to give up. It is built in the ordinary, in repetition, in recommitment. It is earned in obscurity when no one is watching and you choose the right thing anyway. And it becomes visible not when you speak of it, but when others feel it in your presence, when they sense your groundedness, your calm, your quiet conviction. The world may not change, but you will. And that change will echo in how you walk, upright, composed, deliberate, with a posture that reflects not arrogance, but quiet assurance. It will show in how you carry yourself in a room full of noise, and how you maintain your center when others lose theirs. It will show in how you speak, clear, kind, unshaken. Not because you seek attention, but because your words have weight. Because they come from a mind that does not rush, does not waver, and does not depend on others to validate its truth. It will show in how you respond, not with panic, but with perspective, not with fury, but with firmness, not with noise, but with direction. In your stillness, your clarity, your focus, your calm, others will feel it. They may not be able to name it, but they will sense it. They may call it confidence or presence or discipline. They may think it is something you were born with, but you will know. You will remember the mornings you rose early when it was easier to sleep, the nights you stayed present with your thoughts instead of escaping into distraction. You will remember the times you chose what was right over what was easy, and the times you stood firm even when no one noticed. You will know that this strength was no accident. It is the mind you built brick by brick, moment by moment, in silence, in solitude, in self-examination. It is your strong mind, earned, built, daily, with choice, with courage, with repetition, with silence, with awareness, with integrity, with resolve. That is the Stoic way, the path that does not guarantee ease, but always offers growth. That does not avoid hardship, but transforms it into discipline. That does not chase approval, but anchors itself in purpose. That is the way forward. Not glamorous, not easy, but always possible, always within reach, as long as you are willing to begin again and again. Not once, but every day you open your eyes, stand on your feet and say, "Today I will build."